Ethiopia is a vast country with a long history. Its 75 million people form a central and integral part of the Horn of Africa. For decades, the Ethiopian government, numerous international organizations, and individuals have struggled with the recurrent problem of food insecurity. Despite positive contributions in times of emergency, food aid and other humanitarian interventions can create dependency, weaken innovation, and disrupt food prices, affecting the marketplace for local foods. In order to systematically address these chronic problems, the Ethiopian government and major international donors have redesigned the way food aid and development assistance is directed. To implement this strategy, the Productive Safety Net program began operations in 2005. Instead of focusing on providing emergency food aid each year, the program works with local people to ensure a longer-term solution based on restoring Ethiopia's natural environment. The program is building on strong scientific evidence, proving that utilizing land with restored ecological health provides far greater productivity and long-term improvements in agricultural yields, making it possible for the people to escape the cycle of poverty and environmental destruction. The goal of the Productive Safety Net program is to implement this strategy by pooling the funds of many donors, including the World Bank, the British Department for International Development, the European Commission, the United States Agency for International Development, the Canadian International Development Agency, the Irish Agency for International Development, the World Food Program, and the Swedish International Development Agency. The oldest human fossil remains known to exist were found in the Ethiopian section of East Africa's Great Rift Valley. In this place, reflections of a long and eventful past can sometimes seem to blur the line between history and modern life. Ethiopia is the only country in Africa to successfully resist colonialization. But despite Ethiopia's proud history and many accomplishments, contemporary times have not been easy. Prone for centuries to drought and famine, in modern times, these have risen to epic proportions. Over the years and decades, international food assistance has prevented millions from starving, but has failed to address the fundamental problems causing food insecurity. The symptoms of poverty and hunger, while often commanding attention, have much deeper causes. The Productive Safety Net program is addressing many of the root causes of these problems. Agriculture has been practiced in Ethiopia for thousands of years. Some traditional practices that are still in use are causing environmental damage. Such practices are contributing significantly to low agricultural productivity and widespread poverty in Ethiopia. Farmer Ato Tufa Rubella says that previously in his area, people suffered greatly from drought and starvation, not fully understanding the link between a healthy environment and agricultural productivity. Nature, when pristine, covers the earth with a living blanket of plants that have numerous ecological functions. This vegetation cover is the basis of biodiversity through natural selection, the source of soil stability, soil fertility, natural infiltration, retention, and flow in the water cycle, and the natural method to fix carbon in biomass and soil organic matter. If we start at the top of the watershed, we can see that if the tree cover is lost, then during rainfall the water will not naturally infiltrate into the soil, but will flow away as runoff, taking large amounts of topsoil with it. Once this concept was embraced by Rubella and his people, and they began restoring the land, they were very happy with the results. The effect of encroaching into the forested slopes is widespread land degradation. This causes numerous problems. The constant erosion causes downstream changes in the capacity of rivers, making flooding inevitable, and ultimately causing lower agricultural yields. Likewise, planting on the sides of steep slopes or grazing livestock on fragile land can cause further degradation with similar results. In Ethiopia, deforestation is already at a critical point, with forest cover now below 3%.
Environmentally, the landslide, the topsoil will move down, no percolation, runoff increases. Recently in Redwa, things will increase. Destruction, disaster, even migration, moving from place to place, just serving for food. Okay? All these things will be aggravated. Environmental impact is very serious.
Another impact on the environment can come from the introduction of invasive plant species. For example, these eucalyptus trees secrete a type of poison that kills other plant species, exposing yet more soil and reducing the environmental value of the trees. Even the development response to Ethiopia's problems in recent years has itself now become a problem. Relying on emergency food assistance to prevent starvation has led to dependence on the part of the recipients and even to donor fatigue as the problem spans the years and decades without being solved. The cycle of poverty and environmental degradation can be broken. It is possible to restore the underlying environmental and economic viability of the land. Evidence from scientific research around the world is showing that integrated management of the environment and agriculture are required in order to ensure sustainable development. The Productive Safety Net program pays the chronically food insecure to improve watershed management, general environmental conditions, and their social infrastructure. This provides them with money to buy food. When there is no food in the local market, then the program provides them with food directly. These measures enable households to avoid selling their livestock or other possessions to buy food.
Our main objective is just to secure food for the chronically disaster peoples.
The intent of the program is for communities at the watershed level to work together to restore their land. By paying the chronically poor food insecure to improve watershed management and environmental conditions, the program has already seen excellent results.
Then after the retargeting takes place, we organize the so-called beneficiaries into teams, labor organization. Why do we make this? In order to utilize effectively their labor into development activities. This catchment is treated community-based watershed planning, okay? The community participatorily, they themselves, what they can achieve, realistic plan they, in the first place they prepared.
Together as a group, and we call them user group.
The objectives of the activity is just to rehabilitate the degraded land, or in another way, to increase land availability by controlling the gullies. This is one objective. The other way is to protect the environment by itself, okay? Not to exceed. The other thing is to upgrade the land productivity and fertility to overall satisfy their food crops, and to provide forage for livestock near the farmland.
And almost we have 70,000 beneficiaries in safety net program, and this is one of the watershed in Gannata Mariam called Zaha. As you know, different activities like that of road, natural source, small traditional irrigation, and other activities are implemented. And as you see here, the traditional irrigation and natural source activities are implemented, as well as reforestation.
Different techniques we, the farmers or the community, construct in these sites. For examples, hillside terrace, eyebrows, check dams, different water harvesting structures. So the area seems recover naturally.
Restoring forests and grasslands can provide near-term forest products and fodder, and longer-term benefits from increased soil fertility, stability, natural water infiltration, retention, and flow. One challenge the program faces is creating an understanding that more agricultural land does not mean greater yield. Closing off areas of land to restore ecosystem function can result in higher yield and income by rejuvenating the land.
This forest, no one forest before 30 years. After 30 years, this mountain is very degraded. This degraded land affects on this Dadar city in erosion in another ways, as the natural resource departments or Warada Agricultural Bureau. This mountain closed by area and employ guards on it. After that, when area is closer, the grass and other forest type of forests are planted. And we have 9 nursery sites, and in that nursery sites there are many variety forest types are prepared in that nursery site. After that, we planting in these places. In our planning, 6 million plants are prepared in our nursery sites in 1 year.
Other methods being used successfully to protect the environment include cutting and carrying fodder to feed domestic animals, rather than allowing livestock to graze freely on the fragile land, and utilizing high-value and high-yield perennial crops that don't disrupt ecosystem function. These methods successfully protect the environment while greatly increasing both yield and income. The program's activities are making it possible for Ethiopians to imagine a long-term solution.
This is a relief program replaced by a long-term, productive, and which is encouraging or changing their behaviority, which is making them capable to just produce what they can, to build an asset for themselves, which makes a base of asset building for the beneficiaries, in order to encourage the performance of their activity, at the same time effectively utilizing working time. Okay?
As part of the larger food security program, the Productive Safety Net program is enabling Ethiopians not only to improve their agricultural practices, but to build sustainable livelihoods. Study of China's Lus Plateau reveal a very similar development pattern to that seen in Ethiopia. Since the time of settled agriculture, the people of the Lus Plateau fundamentally degraded their environment, losing virtually all the vegetation cover, natural fertility, and the natural infiltration and retention of water. The fundamental destruction of such a vast area caused widespread poverty and large-scale resettlement. There is now evidence that it is possible, through government-supported but community-led efforts, to rehabilitate large-scale damaged ecosystems, including returning ecosystem function that had been lost. The evidence also reveals significant information about the interrelationship between functional ecosystems and the human economy. For instance, following the introduction of large-scale ecosystem rehabilitation on China's Lus Plateau, not only has the environment significantly improved, but local incomes have more than quadrupled as agricultural productivity has increased. Since human beings have such a massive impact on natural systems, it is important that this impact is positive. The Productive Safety Net program engages the people as part of the solution, giving them the understanding and the means to improve ecosystem function, agricultural productivity, and their own economic prospects.
My vision is just to collectivize a piece of land into watershed management through participatory planning approach, okay? By convincing. The planning approach by itself technically will just convince them, the peoples. When they see the productivity, the way we are just following, the methodology, the implementation phase, such and such things will just convince them. They will come to us.
Amongst Ethiopia's professional implementers, there is understanding and enthusiasm. Community-based integrated poverty eradication and large-scale ecosystem rehabilitation is complex and requires consensus in order to succeed. While there is no quick fix, evidence shows that it is possible to rehabilitate large-scale damaged ecosystems, returning ecosystem function that has been lost over large areas. The Productive Safety Net program employs this knowledge to stimulate fundamental improvements in the Ethiopian environment and a rising standard of living for the Ethiopian people, launching the country on the path toward a self-sufficient and sustainable future.